In life, there are only two things that are certain to bring happiness: Hollow Knight and beer. Plato, probably. Very wise words if I do say so myself. However, to the untrained eye, those two things seem entirely unrelated, except they honestly go hand in hand. It wasn't until I was watching one of Fireborn's many speedrunner vs Hunter videos, kind of stellar in hand, that I thought to myself, do you reckon they have beer in Hallownest? Do you reckon the City of Tears once had pubs? And most importantly, where exactly is the best place in Hallownest to down a pint? And with less than a week until Silksong releases, and an idea which I pinched from Cabag Man, who I definitely recommend checking out his video here, there's no better time than now to answer one of life's great debates, so grab a Carlin and let's jump right into it. I feel that it's only fitting that we start with the most well known, and first location we come across to actually have someone living in it, Dartmouth. Dartmouth is quite a melancholy little town, with the first encounter of it clearly showing you that it's merely a shadow of what once was. Elderbug, being the only citizen here, further reinforces this, warning you not to make the same mistake others did, venturing down into the depths below. Because of this, a pint here would feel somewhat bittersweet, I think. Not necessarily wanted, but nonetheless still accepted, a reminder to be thankful for what you have, even if it isn't a lot. However, as you begin to bring more and more life back to Dartmouth, despite retaining that same gloomy atmosphere, the vibes become significantly better, much more lively and welcoming. Just the thought of being surrounded by peers creates a huge shift in the atmosphere of down in the Pint here. I could imagine there even being a little rundown pub in the centre, just next to the Stag station, actually called something like the Black Stag. Because of the conflicting tones here though, I feel like it gets a solid C tier. Technically, it should be the same location, but I feel like having the Grim Troop Circus in the same category as Dartmouth feels unfair. With a huge shift in tone, if travelling circuses came to town, who cares if it looks dodgy? All of them are. Might as well make the most of it and get your cheap flimsy cup and see what they have to offer. The town needed something to liven itself up again anyway, who cares if it's run by a vampire thing? Dracula used to live in Whitby, and having a beer there's phenomenal, so I'm assuming the same goes here. Plus, the thought alone of watching Brum play his little accordion while you just sat there singing along with some mates, Guinness in hand, easily slides the travelling circus straight into a low A tier. Next up, let's shoot straight across Hallownest, and right to the other side at Kingdom's Edge. This is probably the hardest one to rank in the entirety of the video. In the middle of the wilderness, surrounded by cliffs you can just slip off, and hordes of primal aspid's waiting to kill you around every corner. There's much bigger things here than beer. Despite these risks though, there are parts where you feel like a pint is the only option available to you, such as the ancient nailsmith, or the abandoned tent right before the second hornet fight. Beer seems necessary here honestly, so if ice would be quiet down, it would be a memento to all of those fallen soldiers who made it so far to Hallownest's outskirts. Even after looking at these however, Kingdom's Edge just seems too dangerous of a place to comfortably enjoy nice ice cold brew. It's definitely not the worst, and just barely misses out on C tier, instead falling off of the cliff into D. You know what, I've got to do it eventually, might as well get it out of the way and go into the sewers. My bad, the Royal Waterways. It's just sewers with a posh name though, innit? Just the smell alone here would be enough to put me off drinking for the rest of my life. Never mind looking around and seeing fluke eggs, piles of shit in the dung defender's room, and piles of junk all around. It's just a bit grim. And even a Wetherspoons in Stoke-on-Trent would probably be so much nicer. I didn't even have this as a tier before starting the video. The Royal Waterways gets the easiest F tier I've ever seen. Fingers crossed that the next location is a lot nicer. My imaginary spinny wheel has decided to land on White Palace, yay! The grounds themselves in the present day seem too abandoned for a pint. It feels like you're somewhere off limits that you shouldn't be. But judging this, when the area doesn't even open until you upgrade your dream nail, just seems unfair. The vibes change entirely, turning the palace into a beautiful, peaceful area where you'll be served the finest imports from Farloom by your own personal servant. You'll be living your best life dining pints here genuinely, just make sure not to stumble off course and end up on the path of pain. Filling a couple of drops would be the least of your concerns there. The beautiful decor and exclusive vibe of the White Palace though let it straight into B tier. I don't want to keep people waiting, because I know for a fact there's only one location everybody's here for, that being the City of Tears. It makes sense honestly, it's a full on city, In its peak, it probably had some of the best nightlife across the whole kingdom. The pub crawl around here would definitely make you drunk by the end of it. Sitting in the pleasure house, listening to Marissa's almost angelic singing, would honestly be the best place possible to have a beer in the whole of Hollow Knight, and then leaving and making your way down to the fountain. The City of Tears, it's just blissful. It was almost entirely a hotspot for bugs and travellers alike in its peak, with pubs aplenty, probably with their own equivalent of Wetherspoons, something like King Nails. Soul Sanctum is pretty much Hallownest's equivalent of a monastery though, so definitely don't bring your booze in there. The phenomenal vibes of the City of Tears easily make it the first S tier of the video. I'd be on the town every night if I was a bug living here, trying all the different ales Hallownest has to offer. Surely the rest of Hallownest are missing out on the brews which the Hive might be making though. The bees, they have honey, absolute game changer when it comes to making beer, especially with what limited resources there are in Hallownest. And on top of that, how else is Hive Knight meant to unwind after his first encounter with an outsider in God knows how long? I can only imagine how sweet that nectar would taste. They even have the architecture that would make a phenomenal pint as well. Old buildings, decked out, tables and chairs, bookshelves lining the walls, and the smell of honey everywhere. Yet again, another phenomenal pint. But you've just got to make sure a hive garden doesn't mistake you for a husk, and you should be chill. The remoteness of the hive adds to this, no natterings out to annoy you, just your thoughts, and the sweetest beer known to man, placing the hive into a high A tier. Compared to Deepness though, the hive is the opposite of remote. During my first playthrough I was genuinely terrified. Just a bit unsettling to be fair. Dark, maze-like tunnels, no matter how much you memorise them, you still end up getting lost. And Beast Den is basically the Deep Nest equivalent of being spiked. Oh, and also Garpies exist. It's bad enough travelling through it sober, never mind 3 pints down. It's too gloomy and creepy to enjoy, kind of like walking through the back alleys in a city. The craziest part is that not even the only redeemable area of Deep Nest, the failed tramway, does enough to make it welcoming for a pint. The tram is in shambles, so there's nothing to do here whatsoever, and I'm not carrying a 4-pack through the entirety of those tunnels. I'm not sure about you. There are worse places to have a pint, but the creepiness of Deep Nest, it's just, no, not a chance. Easy E tier. Sorry to the one Deep Nest fan out there. It feels like it'd be a fair bit disorderly to drink at the resting grounds. After all, it's filled with the graves of the fallen, and the rituals which used to be conducted there. So unless one of the graves is that of a drinking buddy, it just feels a bit rude, honestly. It's peaceful here, but not peaceful in the type of way that a pint would make better. Imagine being a bug that died, trying to help trap the radiance, and some random guys just sipping on a can of bud in front of your grave. Seer would probably understand though. Actually, she seems like the sort of person to offer you a pint for collecting so much essence. Yet as a whole, the resting ground seems like it'd be yet another E tier. Not too far away though, technically still in the resting grounds, is the Blue Lake. No matter what side of the lake you sit on, whether you're with Quirrell, Pisa, or even sat there by yourself, the mood here is genuinely insane, which is impressive for saying it's just a lake. Sitting there on the shore, looking at the vast, bright blue water, light seeping through the cracks in the rocks in an otherwise gloomy and miserable world, it's almost like the game is asking you directly to go and get a can. Like honestly, just imagine sitting there sipping on some beer, not a care in the world. Life honestly doesn't get much better than this, especially not in Hallownest. So you might as well enjoy the serenity of Blue Lake, with a nice cold beer before the radiance kills you. Being such a beautiful location, the Blue Lake is easily an S tier. In hindsight, I really should have started with Howling Cliffs, seeing it's the very first location that you start the game at. Oh wow. This is another one which I feel has varying vibes. It's quite hard to pinpoint how having a beer here would feel. For a start, it's very windy, and wind and beer don't exactly go together. And outside of Joni's Repose and the Nightmare Lantern, it's just a bit bland. And even then, sitting at the Nightmare Lantern for too long with a pint would just get eerie. Whilst Joni's Repose is beautiful, it's almost too calm for a pint. Like the Blue Lake was peaceful at least, but here it'd just be kinda boring. And yes, I know you're typing that I'm contradicting myself over and over again. I just really need to find the perfect spot for a beer in Hallownest. It's a serious matter. Because of the empty, windy vibe of the Howling Cliffs though, I I feel like it's only fitting that it becomes yet another C tier. There's only 2 words I need to say that give you all the reasons in the world why the Abyss would be up there in the worst places in the entire universe to have a pint. Dead siblings. Like, honestly, think about it. It's a big hole filled with hundreds of thousands of corpses of your siblings that also aren't your siblings and are technically all you. Yes, it's a spoiler, but the game's been out a decade, you've had chances to play it now. And that's a bit of a vibe killer, innit? I didn't know Moretti came with a side of existentialism. I mean, there's a big fuck-ass lighthouse. A pint up there would be sick, I guess. But still, the dead sibling pit is a big no-no. Take that as a general rule of thumb in life, actually. Not just for where to drink beer. No matter how much heavy lifting I try and make the lighthouse do, the Abyss is placing itself firmly in E tier. I feel like the Coliseum of Fools is a bit of a no-brainer for having a beer. Watching the night kick some ass in the arena, or alternatively having their ass get kicked. It's no different to watching a sports match with a pint, to be fair. If you wanna, you could even enter the Coliseum yourself while it's pissed, and honestly, that'd be a blast. What a way to go out, honestly. Potential here is endless. I'd be 8 beers out, and still going just watching people absolutely eat shit to the oblobbles, easily placing the Coliseum in A tier. I asked my mates about Crystal Peak, because I genuinely had the most mixed feelings ever about this place. On one hand, the sights are beautiful, surrounded by gemstones and rock formations, but then on the other hand, it's just a mine, ain't it? This is the job of so many bugs, and I feel like saving Milo would be much more important than getting drunk here. If they can't drink at the workplace, then why should I be able to? That's when one of my mates reminded me about Hallownest Crown. You're literally at the top of the world, so what better way is it to look down at the world of Hallownest below, taking in the fresh air with a bottle of whatever you fancy in hand. Similar to Howling Cliffs though, there's just too many contrasting atmospheres to make Crystal Peak an ideal place for a boozer. And I don't really want to get Milo sacked from a job, making it yet another D tier. If there's one place that has potential, despite being a glorified swamp, it's the fungal waste. Sure, there are parts which you should absolutely avoid at all costs. Leg Eater for one reminded me of that creepy old guy who sits at the end of the bar speaking to nobody. I feel like the Mantis Village would be nice though. Well, after you've beaten the Mantis Lords. Because if they respect you just for that, I can only imagine what they'd be like if you brought alcohol to them too. Wait, I sound like a coloniser, scrap that bit. I mean, Queen Station in its peak though, blimey. That would have been an insane pint. Sat there waiting for the 4 PM stag, pint in hand because there's nothing better to do. Okay, yeah, on second thoughts, maybe fungal waste should get nothing higher than B tier actually. I'm pulling at straws to try and justify myself. Just on the other side of Queen Station though, there's another location which seems fairly fitting for pints. Subscribe button, I'd love to have a pint there. Just kidding, I'm on about none other than Fog Canyon. I'd love a walk through here with a pint. The vibes are insane. The overgrown mound for starters is literally asking for you to take a crate of Carl in there and pass it out like you would in any field in the UK. As for the canyon itself though, whilst being one of the most beautiful locations in the entire game, with this only being strengthened by the fact that it has one of the most underrated songs in the game, it's too hilly, and definitely too dangerous. I mean, the Umas are legit giant bombs, basically playing a game of who drops a pint last walking through here, mixed with a game of Minesweeper. Now that I think about it though, I wonder if Monomon's actually in a giant tube filled with beer. Knowing Team Cherry, I could see that being true. They are Australian after all. Regardless though, Fog Canyon comfortably make its way into C tier. There's just too much going on for a pint to be a safe option. Take a pack of fruit shoots instead maybe. Whilst I'm here, I might as well carry on the F streak and do Forgotten Crossroads before it really is forgotten. As the first real location left to explore by yourself, you think there'd be plenty of spots to have pints here. However, everywhere's too samey, it feels abandoned, or because it is, but that's not the point. And more importantly, after you've been left with the disheartening messages said by Elderbug before descending down, it doesn't exactly leave you in the right mindset for a Forgotten Crossroads pint. Maybe Cornifer would appreciate one when you first encounter him, but everywhere else, such as a Grubfar Room, False Night Arena, or even Salubra's Hut, all feel too sacred and ancient for a pint. Otherwise there'd be good drinking spots if it wasn't for the level of respect alongside them. So out of sheer politeness, Forgotten Crossroad gets a D, with Infected Crossroad also getting the same results just because you really should be saving Hallownest instead of getting pissed. Now here's a question for you. Would the gods in Hollow Knight drink beer? I mean, just how else are they going to pass the time in between watching Pantheons? I mean, God Home is just in the mind of the God Seeker, so she can just imagine up beer whenever she wants to. What a life. Like, genuinely, what a life. If you weren't convinced enough by the thought of imagining beer up whenever you want, anywhere in the world, just imagine drinking a pint in front of the statue of each boss you've killed. Genuinely aura-farming with that one action alone. The only downside I can think of to having a pint in God Home would be the fact that beer wouldn't be a smart idea before entering Pantheon 5. And that alone is an acceptable enough reason to bring God Home just barely down to a B tier. And then there were 3. 3 more locations to have pints in. Who'd have thought a pub crawl through Hallownest would be so time consuming? I genuinely forget how many locations this game has, but you know what, here's Ancient Basin. I always forget about Ancient Basin honestly. Saying how many areas in the game it connects together, it just kind of exists, it does its own thing, it doesn't have anything special jumping out at you. And I feel like that'd be the same for having a pint here. It just feels forced and unnecessary, with nothing to do whilst having the pint or after, or even anything worth note to look at. And the last thing I'd want is drinking my beer to feel like a chore. Having one at the hidden station wouldn't be nice either. The derelict feel with the disheartening vibe of the rest of the basin would make it quite sad, and everybody knows that a pint is meant to be happy. Because of these reasons, I feel like it's only fitting to give Ancient Basin yet another D. Both of the next locations are kind of similar, but you guys have waited long enough so you can have Green Path now. I would absolutely love a pint in Green Path. It's so full of life, so vibrant and whimsical that you can just walk around with a Guinness in hand, noticing all of the little intricate details and having the best time possible. And just when you're starting to get bored, you can wander down to the Lake of Un and sit there contemplating life with your giant slug buddy and Quirrell over a couple of pints. Talk about a get together honestly. There is one problem though, a pretty major problem really. There's too many flies around Green Path. So just make sure none of them end up in your drink. Green Path firmly gets an A tier though. A for Aspid, which is ironic as there are no Aspids in Green Path. But last, and certainly not least, we have none other than Queen's Gardens. Everything that Green Path and Fungal Waste do well, Queen's Gardens do so much better. It's so packed full of life and vibrancy, it's honestly the most beautiful area in the entire game. It isn't even close. You could sit on any one bench for hours here, just sipping on a pint and being thankful for life. The fact that the music actually plays here over loudspeakers as well, which you can see at that bench looking out at the rest of the garden, is just such a nice little touch, which really adds to how relaxing and comforting a beer here would be. The White Lady really should have given me a Moretti instead of a King Soul half. I would have made much more use out of it. If I haven't given it away by this point, I love Queen's Gardens. It's just the perfect area in Hollow Knight, and it's also what I'm ranking as the best spot to have a pint in the entire game. I mean, it just genuinely has everything. But here it is, the final tier list, and the objectively correct one at that. If you have any different opinions though, make sure to comment them down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for the next ones I have coming out. They'll be more informative, and it will help the channel immensely. Thanks for watching, and have fun when Silksong eventually releases. It's going to be amazing. Peace out.